The following program is video supplemental instruction. VSI is brought to you by the Teaching Center, UF's Learning Support Center, www.teachingcenter.ufl.edu.
Question number 23. Question 23 wants us now to apply mixing acids and bases. It says, what volume, so we're looking for a volume in milliliters, of 0.400 molar sodium hydroxide is required to titrate 50 milliliters of 0.10 molar sulfuric acid H2SO4 to the equivalence point. So we have 50 milliliters of 0.10 molar H2SO4. So this question is just like one of the dilution questions that we did before. We have M1V1 equals M2V2, except there's a little bit of a trick at the end. But first we're going to start it out with our simple M1V1 equals M2V2. So we know that we have 50 milliliters of 0.10 molar H2SO4. And we have 50 milliliters. And we're trying to titrate it with 0.400 molar NaOH with X milliliters. So if we solve it this way, we do 0.1 times 50 divided by 0.4, which gives us 12.5 milliliters of NaOH. However, the reason this question is tricky is look at H2SO4 versus NaOH. Remember, when we do some kind of neutralization reaction, we need 2 hydrogens and 2 hydroxides to make the equivalent here. So if we were to balance this H2SO4 reaction with the sodium hydroxide, we would need to double the amount of sodium hydroxide in order to make the equivalence of water. So let's go ahead and try this out. So sulfuric acid plus sodium hydroxide. Well, we know that when 2 come together, we're going to form water. And in this case, we're going to form sodium sulfate. But we need to go through and balance this reaction. Well, we know that the H2O here, we're going to need actually 2 equivalents of H2O. So it's going to leave us with 4 hydrogens, 2 oxygens on this side, plus 4 oxygens. We need 2 sodiums because sodium goes with the sulfate. So we have 2 sodiums and 2 sodiums. We have 2 sulfates here. So, but wait, we know actually that sodium sulfate, if we look at our periodic table, we have to look at how sodium and sulfate combine, because sodium is an alkali earth metal, while sulfate is SO4 2-. So if we pull up our periodic tables, we know that sodium is in the first group. So this actually has to be Na2SO4. Now, 2 sodiums, 2 sodiums. That's correct. 1 sulfate, 1 sulfate. So now we have 4 hydrogens, and we have 2 hydrogens and 2 hydrogens here. So we have 4 hydrogens. Hydrogens are all right here, hydrogens are right here, and hydrogens are okay here. So now we have 2 oxygens and 2 oxygens. This is our completely balanced reaction. So once we have our completely balanced reaction, we know that we needed 2 equivalents of sodium hydroxide for every 1 equivalent of sulfuric acid. So instead of just the 12.5, we're going to take our 12.5 milliliters and multiply by the 2:1 to NaOH for every 1 H2SO4, and it's going to give us 25 milliliters NaOH needed, and the answer choice is number 3. So remember, for a question like this, when you have an acid with 2 hydrogen equivalents, H2SO4 to only 1 hydrogen equivalent, you have to go through and balance the entire reaction, and when we do the M1V1, M2V2, we have to double the 12.5 to make it 25 after balancing the equation.
The Teaching Center, UF's Learning Support Center, www.teachingcenter.ufl.edu.